In the summer of 1975, I had just graduated from high school, and I don't remember the date, but we were told all to be uptown to church that day because they were putting the steeple on the sanctuary. And I still remember the old people, what I think were old people then, or probably my age now. But I remember them crying and being so excited. And I only learned later on that they were so excited because the sanctuary that this one replaced, that was built in the 20s, they ran out of money and were not able to have a steeple. So when this steeple went on this building in 1975, it was such a big day for all those people. And I reflect back on that still today. When I think about stewardship, we always think about giving and tithing, but I also think about it in the way of taking care of something like this building that so many people work so hard to provide for us. And I'm just very, very proud to be a part of it. And I know that lots of other people are too.
What a privilege it was to attend the dedication of our new sanctuary. At that time, I was a student at NC State and went to First Presbyterian Church downtown Raleigh when I wasn't here at my home church. There was such excitement that day and anticipation of coming home, walking into a new sanctuary, which was different, with a new entrance, a new door, and now facing downtown Kannapolis. Larry Eford and I had kept in touch, and we were so excited to meet that Sunday morning out on the new front steps. I loved the feeling when I walked in, seeing the new pews, the carpet, the beautiful lighting, and just the whole feeling of a true spirit. You could just feel it all around you when we came that day. We were in the presence of our Lord as a new beginning. The best part of it, though, was being home with the wonderful Sunday school teachers, church leaders, Bible school teachers, and the strong youth group that I had here, who was always supportive and loving. And many of them were here that day to greet us with smiles. I remember feeling the deep commitment of the pastor and his family, our church leaders, and our congregation, who were steadfast and Christian role models for us, and always growing up as a Presbyterian family. It was almost like a christening feeling of our members and a place which is now a new home to worship in a new building. I was honored to be there. Our church has always been warm and loving to my family and a place to learn more about our loving God. This day, it reaffirmed my faith in knowing I was in the right place to worship. I'm so thankful today for the gift of being a lifelong member and for being able to raise my daughters here with this congregation. The new sanctuary was just that. It was new, but our members weren't. They were the same. They were constant in their faith, attendance, and their service to our gracious Lord. Indeed, it was a special day to attend in a new sanctuary. And it leads us to where we are now, 50 years later. It is still a privilege and a rich blessing for me and my family. I'm so glad to be here.
Some of my favorite memories from the new sanctuary that was built in 1975 are getting to walk my two daughters down the aisle to be married. Lander and Shannon both were married in that church. And that was a great honor for me to do that. And also some of the family members that actually Uncle Aubrey and Uncle Ray helped tear down the old sanctuary. And to see some of my family members in that new sanctuary and get to enjoy it was wonderful. Actually, Uncle Ray never got to do it. Uncle Ray's, we even had to have his funeral at the Lutheran church across the street because he died right before the sanctuary was available for use. And then I guess one of my favorite things also is being able to go to Mexico. Joe Crawford came here and that was his idea. And I didn't realize at the time what he was doing, how it would affect me. And I ended up going, and I think I've been 10 times. And every time I just enjoy it that much more. And that really has been a great thing in my life through that sanctuary and through that church. And I just thank all the church for it and for the trips. And if anybody's ready to go, I'm ready to go.
Now, I think back on the times that I've spent at this church and my family. My grandfather, Bob, he came to the First Presbyterian Church in the late 20s. And my father, Don, he was born in 1930. And I was born into this church in 1954. I have a son and two daughters that were born in this church, Brian, Tracy, and Kristen. And they have had children that were born here. So there's, at one time, I believe it was 5 generations of the family that were worshiping together in this church. Well, not together, but have all spent time worshiping in this sanctuary. Mm-hmm. I was a builder. Dad was a builder. My grandfather, Bob, was a builder before him. And when Dad first built his house, a good friend of theirs, Malcolm and Leila Bishop, Malcolm made a plaque, and it had Psalm 127. Except the Lord build the house, they labor in vain that built it. And I have a lot of memories of this particular facility, the sanctuary, the one before it, growing up and playing in the church, going to the church. But some of my best memories are of the people that went to church here.
My dad was on the building committee, and one time when I was home from college, he asked me, did I want to see a sneak peek? Mm-hmm. Of course I did. So we went to the church, and as we walked in the sanctuary, it was so different from the church, our old church. The room was so large. Of course, it was empty, but it was just a massive space, and it was open, and it was airy. But the most astonishing thing was the wash of natural light that we had not had in the past. The old church had the stained glass windows, and it was dark. There was minimal amounts of natural light. So that was my first impression of the sanctuary. Now, the other thing that I remember, which is a little more detailed and a little more probably interesting, the old church faced the Lutheran church, and it sat east to west with the pews facing the west. And for a reference point, the Eford side of the church was along the avenue, and the Goodnight side of the church was beside a mill houses. So when they built the new church, they of course turned it around, and it faced the avenue, which put the Eford side of the church next to the old post office, and the Goodnight side of the church next to the Lutheran church. Mm-hmm. I remember the first Sunday we had sit-down worship as the people gathered in the back of the sanctuary to come in and find their pew. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of chaos because they couldn't find their pew. Mm-hmm. They were turned around. They were a little disoriented, and they kept saying, I'm not sure where I sit, because I sat at the third stained glass window, and there was just a lot of confusion. Mm-hmm. But before the service, everyone found either their pew or a pew to sit in. Mm-hmm. And as even today, we have Lee still sits in the Eford pews, and Steve and Mark and I still sit in the Goodnight pews. And as true Presbyterians, we are very territorial about our pews.
I want to tell you about some exciting things that happened during the time of opening up the new sanctuary. Of course, the steeple was very exciting for everyone. People wanted to come and see the new steeple on the roof. I also know that the women worked so hard. They were so excited to get the beautiful green carpet laid throughout the sanctuary and out into the narthex and entranceway, and it did look very beautiful. And of course, the cross, I guess, is my favorite in the very front of the church, up above the choir loft, and the stained glass window behind it. And I can remember when I sang in the choir, I used to tell Eldon Wadsworth that God was sending a light down on his head when he was preaching to us the sermons. He had a halo on his head. I told his wife Eva that too. So that's just a very special, beautiful piece that I enjoy still today. And so many people have who have come to our church to worship have talked about the beauty of the sanctuary, and it's the prettiest they've ever seen. But I wanted to tell you that I got to watch many children be baptized and be confirmed in the church and other wonderful things, graduation, that I enjoyed being a part of, watching the children grow, as well as my own children and then my grandchildren. What an honor that has been to watch them be baptized. And you know, I say those things because the people are the church. And so we together make up the beauty of this sanctuary. What an honor and a privilege God has given us.